The worst year ever in 2020 is over, and it's January 2021, which means two things for football fans. One is the January transfer window, and two, Jim White's dusting off his old bright yellow tie. So far in Scottish football, there's been a couple of decent signings. Liam Kelly's went to Motherwell on loan, Gavin Riley's back north of the border, playing for Red Hot Livy, and St Mirren have snapped up Eamon Brophy, as we discussed in our podcast, linking in description below, which has raised one or two eyebrows. But there's nothing too out there, and this slightly strange signing of Eamon Brophy got me thinking, what are the weirdest deals that have happened in Scottish football? For the sake of this countdown, I'm going to limit it to one transfer per team because I could probably make a list of Romanov's Hearts or the late 90s, early 2000s Dundee alone. So we are the Scottish Football Boogie channel, and this is our countdown of the 10 weirdest transfers in Scottish football history. Number 10, Thomas Robert to Airdrieonians. Starting off this list with a strange deal which took place in the summer of 2019, Thomas Robert, son of Newcastle icon and star of the film goal Laurent Robert's contract ran out at Montpellier amongst interest from clubs in the Bundesliga, Ligue 1 and even both sides of the Old Firm. But who did he decide to sign for? Yep, that's right, Airdrieonians in League 1 in Scotland. Despite on the face of it this transfer seeming pretty strange, it's actually worked out well for both parties at the Excelsior Stadium. Robert's getting first team football and Airdrie are likely to get a little bit of dosh off the back of his impressive performances. Number 9, Rodney Schneider to Dundee United. From a signing with a famous dad to a signing with a famous brother. In the summer of 2015, Dundee United signed the brother of Dutch legend Wesley Schneider, Rodney, after a short trial period. The younger brother had mediocre success in the Dutch second tier, but nothing standout. The signing really just popped out of the blue and was almost certainly because of his surname. And it's not as if this deal unearthed a diamond in the rough. The strange deal was practically over before it began. Schneider only made one appearance for United before terminating his contract by mutual consent just 30 days later. Number 8, Rolando Zacate to Livingston. Another player with a famous footballing brother, Mauro, formerly of West Ham, was considered quite the talent in his native Argentina, even netting himself a loan move to Real Madrid for the 1990-2000 season. Yet, just 3 seasons later, he found himself plying his trade at Almondvale under Jim Leishman, who had just finished third in the league with Livy, even though it was only their 7th season as a professional club. The season wasn't as successful for the Lions, who narrowly avoided relegation, no thanks to Zacate, who scored 9 goals in 33 matches in that single season at the club. Pretty mind-boggling to think there was an Argentina international playing for Livy as they struggled to stay in the league that season. Number 7, Frank Sauzi to Hibs. The Bosman rule that came into effect in 1995 changed the football landscape completely, and it made it possible for transfers like this to happen. Frank Sauzi, a former French international team captain, joined Hibs. And to top it all off, they were in the first division at the time. After over a decade playing at the highest level at the likes of Monaco, Atlanta, Montpellier, and even part of the Champions League winning Marseille side of 1993, Sauzi was performing week in, week out at the Scottish second tier in the 1999-2000 season. The move proved not only to be a weird one, but a successful one, with the performances in his 2 seasons at Easter Road, including a promotion in the first season, earned him the nickname Le God by the High B faithful, and even led to a spell as manager. I could have put George Best in at this spot at Hibs, but Le God's success at Easter Road just pips the Manchester United heroes' trip north of the border. Number 6, Victor to St Mirren. Of the same ilk as the Sauzi transfer, the Spanish international, who had over 60 caps for Spain, joined the Buddies in 1991, combining with his former Barca teammate Steve Archibald at Love Street. The St Mirren fans were left in awe at the fact they were able to snap up one of Spanish football's biggest names and even the national team captain at the age of 34. He was only in Scotland 1 year, making just 16 appearances and scoring a single goal, but the move made a lasting legacy, with us still talking about it 20 years later. Number 5, Mauricio Pinea to Hearts. As I said, the Hearts spot could have went to virtually any signing in the Romanov era, but I decided to go with this transfer for a couple of reasons. The Chile international Pinea had been on loan at Hearts during the 2006-07 season, but only made 3 appearances in his 6th month for the club because of injuries. So how did Hearts react to this? Well, they bought out his contract at Sporting the following summer, but as they performed a medical, you guessed it, Pinea was injured. He only played for the Jambos 2 more times before moving back to South America. He had talent, no doubt. He played for Chile 45 times and won the Copa America in 2015, and that just makes this double failure of a transfer even more bizarre. Number 4, Marius Nicula to Inverness. After moving from Dynamo Bucharest to Sporting, Standard Liège and Mainz, the only logical step would be to join Inverness Caledonian Thistle, wouldn't it? Well, that's what Marius Nicula did. Nicula had performed pretty consistently well at all the clubs he'd been to before the 2007 move, After having his work permit accepted the second time round, Nicula stood out like a sore thumb at Cali. He was the club's top goalscorer in his only season there. After chairman Alan Savage resigned, it became exactly clear how they were able to afford the Romanian international, and he had to be sold just 1 year into his 2-year deal, and there was even a dispute about unpaid wages between the player and club after he left. Number 3, George Alberts to Clyde. The 2007-8 season saw Clyde struggling at the foot of the First Division, so in March of that year, John Brown knew there was only one player he could sign, his former teammate at Rangers and German international, who was now 38 years old and retired, George Alberts. The Hammer came out of retirement and proved he still had it for the Billy Wee, scoring twice in his 7 games for Clyde and keeping them in the division. The Broadwood supporters will never forget the sign of Alberts donning the white of Clyde. Number 2, Mo Johnson to Rangers. This deal was perhaps more infamous than weird, but it's so well known and the outcry around it is so strange it had to be on the list. Maurice Johnson was heading back to Scotland in 1989 after a 2-year spell in France with Nantes, and he signed for Rangers. What's weird about that, you ask? Well, for starters, he was an ex-Celtic player and he was all set to sign for the Hoops again, until a superbly mustached Graham Souness stepped in. No player had crossed the Old Firm divide in over 40 years. Secondly, he was a Catholic. Rangers had an unwritten no Catholic rule at the club, with no Catholic player or even staff being employed since the 1920s. Souness broke that tradition by signing Johnson, and although there was outrage on both sides of Glasgow at the move, Johnson eventually won over the Rangers faithful. Number 1, Claudio Canadia to Dundee. Like the Hearts selection, I could have picked any one of a number of players for this spot, including the Silver Fox Ravanelli, but the sight of Claudio Canadia in his pomp playing at Dens Park every week is one of the most peculiar sights in world football, never mind Scottish football. Diego Maradona's strike partner at Argentina was so good at points in his career, the only way you could stop him was by physical assault, as Cameroon demonstrated in the 1994 World Cup. The only reason he wasn't in the Argentina team at the time was because he had long hair, which is a strange one. Not surprisingly, Canadia was by far the best player, and let's be honest, a pretty good Dundee team in the year 2000-2001, and moved to Rangers after just 1 season and earned himself a spot at the 2002 World Cup under Marcelo Bielsa, which makes the fact he was playing for Dundee not even 48 months before even weirder. That was our countdown of the top 10 strangest deals that have ever happened in Scottish football. Did we miss anyone out? Comment below and tell us. We're a new channel and this is our first video, so we'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. We've also got a podcast out if you want to give a listen to that, the link's in the description. We're coming out weekly with our Scottish football podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, the links are in the description down below as well. And remember everyone, up and win, down and boogie.